Hey there, my name is Jen Tiller. My husband, Chael, and I, we pastor a church in Wakanda called Fusion Church. And it is so good to be here with you today, wherever you're at, wherever you're watching this. Just so good to be here. What an incredible moment we are in as the church right now. And what an incredible opportunity that Hope Collective is providing in these devotionals and being able to hear from women in our region and be encouraged in our walk. I'm so excited to hear from these ladies, to hear what God has been stirring and speaking, the ways that He's been moving. Just so excited to hear from them. And so I thought today I'd take just a few minutes to share with you something that I feel like the Lord has been speaking to me for the last few months. And it's this idea of defiant joy, or joy as an act of resistance. Now, when I was younger, rebellious or defiant just were not words that you would have used to describe me. I was not perfect, but it just wasn't in my nature to go against authority of any kind. And so it's just not a way that you would have described me. And so when I first had this sense that maybe the Lord was saying this, it felt a little bit like, could that be you, Lord? Is that something that you would say to me? Joy and defiance seemed dissonant. But this came to me in a season of some real personal warfare. And I began to realize that the Lord was redirecting my attention to see joy as a weapon of warfare that He's given us, that joy has power. And, typically when I think of joy, I have this sense of like a lightness or an airiness, right? I picture gentleness, I picture happiness that is just, that you don't have to strive for, or that you don't have to work for. It's just kind of effortless. It just kind of comes, right? And I've experienced that kind of joy where it just sort of is there. And I'm not thinking about being joyful. I'm not trying. I'm not incessantly like chanting in my head, be joyful, be joyful, be joyful. It's just there. And I realized in that season that it didn't quite make sense that I would experience this kind of joy and contentment given my life circumstances. It really just felt like a gift. And so I've experienced that kind of joy. But I've also experienced seasons where it just felt like joy felt unattainable, or it was really difficult to walk in, times where life felt hard or sad or painful, right? We all can probably point to something in the last year where it felt like that. And we wondered, is life ever going to be any different? Is it ever going to be any better than this? And many times in those moments, it feels impossible for joy and pain, or for joy and trials to coexist. But all throughout Scripture, I know that it says it's possible. Romans 12:12 says, be joyful in hope, be patient in affliction, and be persistent in prayer. And that first phrase of be joyful in hope suggests that there is some tension that we live in. When we are hoping for something, we are looking for something different. We are looking to a better day. We are looking for a time when things will be made new, right? When we will have relief from our circumstances, when that marriage will be restored, when that financial burden will be lifted, when that disease or that illness will be healed. We are hoping for something different. And as a matter of fact, the definition of hope says, a feeling of expectation and desire for a certain thing to happen. This word, hope, suggests tension. It suggests a waiting, right? That the now and the not quite yet, the now and the what's possible. And that verse tells us that we are to be joyful in that waiting. So what does that look like? What does that look like to have that kind of joy? Joy isn't just a feeling, right? It's distinct and different from happiness. It is independent of our circumstances. It's a heart posture. It's a way of thinking and living. It's a fruit of the Spirit. And what that tells me is, or what it means to me, is that it's an overflow, right? It's what gets produced in me and a benefit of a life lived out with the Spirit, a life of walking with the Spirit. And in that life with Him, we'll have these mountaintop experiences and we'll experience the valley, right? So what does it look like to have joy in the valley? And what I felt like the Lord is teaching me, still teaching me, is that sometimes joy can look like an act of defiance or resistance, that I can stand in the depths of the valley and declare what I know to be true about God, who he is, his nature, his character, his love, his heart posture toward me, that I can stand in that place with confidence and declare those things, even if I don't yet see the thing that I'm hoping for. Right? Even if my circumstances want to declare the opposite, even if my life wants to call me a liar and point to evidence to the contrary, I can stand in that place and say, I will not allow the enemy to steal what is rightfully mine. It's joy. And as I walk through the valley, I can drive a stake in the ground and say that I will live in gratitude and confidence of who the Father is, no matter what. And to be a bit more practical, for me in this season, when I don't feel particularly joyful, an act of resistance has looked like gratitude sometimes. So I just pause and I say 5 to 10 things that I'm grateful to God for in that moment. I don't make judgments about what those things are. I'm just naming them, right? I'm just acknowledging his goodness towards me. And at other times, it has looked like meditating on the character of God and who he is, to adore him and to worship him simply for who he is and what he's already done, and not for what he can do or he will do. That as much as possible, my worship and my gratitude and my adoration doesn't wait for the mountaintop. And that I begin to see these setbacks and these trials as opportunities to just declare who he is and to fix my eyes upon Jesus, to say whether I have a little or whether I have a lot, he's worthy of every breath, he's worthy of every moment, he's worthy of my highest praise. It's just a moment of defiance, a moment of taking hold of that which was promised to me. You know, Scripture says that the joy of the Lord is our strength, right? So what better time to take hold of those things than when we're feeling weak or helpless or hopeless or in despair? It's in these moments that we can actually resist the enemy. The book of James tells us that we can do this very thing, that we can resist the enemy and he will flee. Right? He hates joy. He hates our gratitude. And when we practice those things, when we take hold of those things, he will flee. Now, I don't mean to suggest in any way that this is formulaic, right? We all know that A plus B does not always equal C, that we can pray prayers in certain situations that seemed to work, and then in the next, they didn't, right? Or we have seasons where, you know, our quiet time is from 7 to 7:30 in the morning, and we're kind of trucking, we're moving along, and then all of a sudden that begins to feel kind of dry or empty or like it's not working anymore, right? So this isn't about a formula. But this also isn't about just pulling up your bootstraps and getting on with it, or denying your pain, or denying your suffering, or faking it till you make it, right? That's not what we're talking about here. The point is to think about creating some practices, some ways of engaging with God in crisis or in the valley that help change our heart posture. It's recognizing that joy works from the inside out and not the other way around. And so my prayer for you today is just that you would live from the inside out, that you would know that what's on the inside is untouchable, regardless of what's being hurled at you. What is on the inside remains. What has been built in the secret place is yours to hold and to hold on to, that you would exercise joy as an act of defiance against the enemy's schemes, and that you would experience the fullness of joy in the presence of God, that the presence of God would be enough to sustain you and to guide you and to keep you and to hold you, and that you would experience the power of joy in your life. God bless you.